So this is the shot that we're gonna end up with. And we will be putting a 3D Minecraft zombie into this shot that we had recorded with Doc. Let's head over to Cinema4D and see how we can do this. So this is the raw live action footage that we're going to be working with. And for that, we're going to have to create a 3D camera that matches the camera that we used in this live action footage. And let's start off by adding a Cinema4D camera. So here in Cinema4D, click on Camera, and then add a Camera Calibrator tag. And within that tag, you're going to have a tab called Image. And then apply that video. And as you can see, the aspect ratio is not right yet. For that, we're going to have to go to the render settings and go to Output and set it to Film and HDTV 1080-24 because we had recorded this in 24p. And now you can see it retains the right aspect ratio and fills the whole canvas. And now within that calibrator tag, go to Calibrate and Add Line. So we can add vanishing lines to tell Cinema4D, okay, that's how the actual camera was looking like. And when you add that line, just take one point and drag it to a vertical line. Let's start off with vertical lines, and hold down the Shift key and click on that line to tell it, okay, that's a line on the y-axis. And in Cinema4D, the y-axis is green. And for the tag to work right, you have to add 2 lines per axis. So add another line, and then assign it to another vertical line in the scene and shift click. And now you can already see the y-axis has been solved already, marked by the yellow square. Now let's get to the z-axis, and now after adding the line, drag that to a straight line moving away from us. Let's get this into place. Hold down Shift and click a couple of times until it turns blue. That's the Z-axis. And drag it to a point where you can see some contrast, maybe this part of the wall here. And drag the points in place. All right. Hold down the Shift key and click on the line until it gets blue. All right. And now you can see everything has been solved, even the X-axis, no lines needed here. But you need the camera position. And for that, you have to add a pin. Click on Add Pin and drag that pin on a point of the lines that you had created. Now you can see everything has been solved, even the X-axis. Now you can click on Create Camera Mapping Tag and Create Background Object. All right, and you're all set. That's the virtual camera that we need to put that zombie in there. All right, now you should look through that camera, and you can see the horizon, the grid line is all in place. And now you can bring in that 3D model of that Minecraft zombie, merge, and I got this zombie file right here. And when you drag around, you can already see we've got the right perspective. Even back there in the corner, so the camera solve is really solid. All right, now we're going to have to move the zombie in place, get him a little closer to the camera because we're kind of close, and get rid of this C motion tag so we can control the body parts. And click on the null object and put it into place. We're going to need a couple of keyframes here. Just a little closer. Adjust the position a little bit, a little higher. That should be okay. All right. Now we're going to have to tell the video to play back in the viewport so we can tell at which point the zombie has to fall apart. For that, we're going to go into the texture and the luminance channel and click in the video and the animation tab and say exact frame, and then click on calculate, 75 frames. Now click on editor, say animate preview, take that, and you're good to go. All right, when you play back, nothing happens. So we're going to have to go back to that other texture, do the same, animate preview, and go into the video and say animation exact frame, and then calculate. All right. And now when you press play, you will see the video will play in the viewport. And that way you can exactly tell when that zombie is going to be hit by the shotgun, and the dynamics will affect the whole geometry. All right, that's around here. Skip a couple of frames, and then you can tell from the movement of the gun right here. All right. So that's where the zombie will find its end position. So click on the null and rotate it a little bit into place, just so it faces towards our hero here. All right, just a little more. All right, so record a keyframe right here, and then go back to frame 0, find the start position right here, click on keyframe. All right, so the whole thing is moving. Now you can go in and give those body parts some movement and record a couple of keyframes. I'm going to speed this up here. It's nothing special. Just go in, click on the head, rotate it a little bit, and find its end position, and then record another keyframe. Pretty simple. And do the same for each arm. Left foot, right foot, until you're happy with the movement. And then you're all set. And now that we got the motion in place, we have to add a couple of objects to interact with the body parts and the physics, as well as to project the texture on it. So we'll add a cube here, just scale it up a little, and then add a couple of segments. All right. I'll change to grow shading lines so I can see the polygons. Then move it into place, and you can tell, like, you can see that the camera perspective just gives the right impression on when you're moving the cube. And just move it into place until you're happy with the position. Make sure it's close enough, because it was right around the corner, like literally a couple of inches away from the zombie. So would barely touch the geometry. And scale it up just a little more, then move it a little back, and then you can take that corner as a guiding point. Now when we go back to the editor camera, just rotate the whole scene a little bit, and then see if this cube and the zombie move along the same plane. And as you can see in the right view, the cube was a little too low, so we'll adjust the position there. And now they should be standing on the same floor. But now you have to adjust the X and Z position again. So we'll go back to the editor camera and move it. At this point, you should not change the Y position. And what I'm doing here, I'm just changing the axis with the L key, and then hit the L key again to move that object, and then move it forward a little more, again to hit that guide point, and then you're good with this one. And then press play again to see if the geometry of the zombie touches the wall, which it shouldn't. And that looks good. And go back to the editor camera. And that seems to be okay. And then just duplicate that cube to get an object for for the door behind the zombie, rotate it in place, and then move it back. All right, I'm adjusting the anchor point again. And then you have to find the right position for that wall. You see that corner down there? Yeah, and the cube should not come out of that other cube on the back side. So just make sure it doesn't go through. That looks good. Now all we need is a floor. So for that, just add a plane object here, and let's see, find the right orientation, and then move it into place, scale it, and just find the right aspect ratio, and then go back with the video and the viewport so you can see where the floor should sit. Scale it a little more, and just put it right into that corner back there. That kind of looks good. All right. And now when we go to the editor camera, we can tell, oh shit, the floor is way too low. It should touch the cubes, because that's the floor where the zombie should be walking on. So we're going to have to adjust the Y position, just barely touching those cubes. All right. Then go back to the camera view. Again, we have to adjust the X and Z position again, so it sits in that corner, and that should be okay now. All right. We now go into that editor camera, uncheck that, and yeah, our virtual set looks good. Go back to the camera view and playback. It kind of looks. And now take that video texture and put it on that plane. Yeah, and change the projection to camera mapping. At first you might want to choose frontal, but that totally depends on what you're looking through. So when you're looking through the camera and you have it on frontal, it will look okay. But when you go out of that camera into the editor view, the whole thing will be screwed up. So you actually have to have the right camera setting. When you turn off background, you see the whole texture has been projected on, and when you leave the camera, you can tell, oh shit, now it's taking the editor view into account. So go back to the camera and into the texture, and then change it to camera mapping. And this will actually project the texture on the geometry based on the camera. No matter if you choose another camera or the editor view or whatever, and then do the same for all the other textures. And as you can see, we will have to put the camera into that field right there. So which camera it should be projecting on. So take the camera, drop it here, and then change the aspect ratio to 16:9 HDTV, and now it looks good when you render it. Yeah, and then delete those other textures, copy that one with pressing the control button and dragging it. When you render, it should look good. Now when you choose the editor view, you can see, okay, it's not following along anymore, but when you look through the camera, it looks okay. All right, so that's how it's being projected on the geometry. And the tiling doesn't matter here because we're not going to see that. Just go into the camera. Looks good. All right, next we want to add a couple of lights, and not a regular one, but an area light. Boom, and then put that into place. And it doesn't have to be 100% accurate. Just roughly, we had actually two light sources. Daylight coming through the door, a bluish light, and a little warmer light above on the ceiling. And go into the light and then choose a bluish color, not too saturated, and the intensity maybe up that a little to 120%. We want to have some shadow maps soft, and then the resolution of the shadow maps will do 250 by 250. Make a test render. All right, looks okay. We're going to take care of that shadowing on the door later. Copy that light, move it a little forward, rotate it by 90 degrees, and then up just a little more. All right, that should be okay. And now change the color on the general tab, just a little warmer, like this. All right, test render, and it looks good. Okay. Go back to the editor view. Move it to the front a little more. All right. So it just catches a little more light. And test render. Yeah, it looks much better. All right, now we're going to have to take care of those shadows. Go into the texture, go to the luminance channel, copy that channel, and paste it into the color channel. Because otherwise, the walls will not receive any shadows. Test render, and now you can see we've got some nice shadowing going on here. The only thing, you will see some seams where the geometry hits the background, and that's because the background texture doesn't have anything in the luminance channel. So go to the color channel, copy it, and then paste it to the luminance channel. That should be a little better, but you're going to have to adjust the luminance channel as well. So render that region, and you can tell, okay, it's a little better, but still, now it's much lighter than the floor. So we'll use the interactive render region and restrict it to that area. All right, just put that into place. Go into the texture, and then adjust the mix strength. And now you can interactively see what this will do to the render. And we'll bring the brightness down a little bit. We'll see if that helps. And bring it down to 10%, and the mix strength maybe, and now we're getting closer. Okay, turn it off, turn it on again. Let's try that. And then bring the mix strength down, and oh yeah, the luminance color is kind of yellowish. Just change that to white. All right, and then bring the brightness down a little more. Now we're getting closer. Doesn't change anything. Brightness down a little bit, some more. Up, the mix strength. All right. That kind of looks good. Okay. Maybe 7%. Maybe even less, 5. Yeah, that looks okay. Now make a test render, and you just got rid of the seams. Okay. And now we will go on and add some dynamics to the scene. Just go to frame number 28, where we said the whole zombie should fall apart, and select all the geometry, and go to simulation and add a collision tag. And then go to the zombie body parts, select all of them, and go to simulation and rigid body. And you can actually animate the dynamics. You can toggle it on and off. So for now, we can set that to off, and go back by one frame, frame number 27, and then hold down the control key and click on that circle, and that will add a keyframe at that position. Go to the next keyframe and put the dynamics to on, and record that keyframe again. And now when you play back, It's going to be kind of slow, but when you reach that point, you will see that the dynamics will kick in and everything will fall apart. Let's turn off that interactive render region and press play. And it's not really updating. Let's just make a preview so you can tell what the animation will look like. So hit Alt-B and then go to Software Preview and change the size to 640 and range from 0 to, let's say, to the end of the video, 75 frames. And let's make a quick time with H.264 and 24 frames and say OK. And press OK, and you'll see the preview is calculating. That should give you an idea of how it will look in real time. So I did speed it up here. So when I press play now, boom, the whole thing is falling apart. But it doesn't look like it was a close hit by a shotgun. So let's close this and go to the dynamics tags and give it some initial velocity. So hit custom initial velocity, and we will just have this affect the geometry for a couple of frames. So go to frame number 27 and then set the Z movement to 250 and then give it a keyframe here. Just move for two frames and then set it to 0. So the initial velocity will only affect the geometry for 2 frames. Boom, now it's falling back. All right. Maybe give it a little more velocity. So go back to that frame where we recorded that keyframe, set it to 350, and then record that keyframe again, Control click, and then when you press play now, boom, a little more dynamic. And that looks okay. All right. And now go in and set the bounce to 20% and the friction to around, let's say, 50%. And then press play again. So it doesn't fly around too much, just moves backward but not bounces too much. And he's knocking that zombie off of his legs. That's nice. All right, one more time. Boom. For some reason, that arm is moving forward instead of back to the back. So let me see where the problem is here. So I paused the recording here, and something was just not right with the right arm. I cranked it up all the way to 750. Now I'm setting it back to 250. Just found out that the anchor point of the arm was flipped, and I just wanted to move the opposite direction because this way it will hit the guy, and we don't want to have to mask it out in After Effects later. And now set only the right arm to 250 or flip the anchor point, whatever you want. And now it's moving to the right direction. All right. Okay, and now set it back to gross shading. Play, boom. Pause here and make a test render, and looks okay. Now let's save this out. Yes. And set the destination for the render file. We want to have a QuickTime movie as an H.264. And set it to 24 frames, say OK. All right. Output looks good. Okay, let me speed this up a little here. Boom, and now go to Output and set the frame range to manual. And as we know, this video should be 75 frames. All right. Render to the picture viewer. Yes. Want to overwrite. I forgot one thing here. To make it look a little more realistic, we're going to have some self-shadowing because there's no shadow underneath this part, the geometry, when it's laying on the floor. So go to the render settings, and go to effects, and pick ambient occlusion. You can leave it at the default settings, and when you render now, you will see it looks much better because there's some shadow on the wall, on the floor, and with that one thing, it doesn't slow down the render too much. We had to do this in 48 hours, so we just used the standard render. Like that looks okay. Check out part 2 of this tutorial here in After Effects. This is the epic Minecraft unboxing final video. Also, here's a tutorial about another scene out of this video, how I created that holographic scene. Check out Doc's channel with the full-length unboxing video. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing for more videos to come, visual effects heavy, entertaining videos. Thank you so much.